Hey, everybody, and welcome to the For Female Founders podcast series, where we are helping women in business learn to thrive, not just survive. I am your host, Sarah Bundy, and today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Kiley Houck, and she is the founder of Kiley's Health Haven. She's a certified health coach, and she's the creator of Mindful Method ebook, where she shares how to eat, move, and live with intention. She's here to help us understand how burnout shows up in the body and what to eat when you're physically and emotionally depleted, how to change your eating habits to best fuel your personal and professional progress, and how to support high-performance women in their businesses. Kiley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get started and just really help everyone that's listening thrive.
Thank you. You know what? I appreciate this topic so much because I love food. I love eating. I love good food. I love healthy food, but I also tend to find my comfort foods, and sometimes I binge. And when you're running a company, sometimes you're short on time. I think we all can appreciate what it feels like to be overwhelmed and burned out. And we do need fuel. We do need that nutrition to propel us forward. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Kiley. How did you get into becoming a health coach focused on people's relationships with food and burnout and supporting high performance women?
It's actually funny because most people experience burnout once they come into this space of building a business, but I got here because I struggled with burnout in the beginning. I was a social worker. I loved helping people, but I did it so much that I didn't help myself. I never took time away, and I didn't really know how to implement self-care in the outside, like bubble baths and wine and pizza party kind of vibe. So I would do all these things, go home, and I would just sit, sulk, hate myself, and eat mindlessly, binge constantly. And I ended up gaining a lot of weight. So I jumped really heavy into diet culture. I lost 65 pounds, but like a lot of people dieting, thank you. Yeah. Like a lot of people dieting, it's hard to sustain their approaches and their process. They don't really teach you how to create a lifestyle. They just teach you how to lose the weight. So I found mindful eating. I found ways to navigate my burnout with mindset coaching and with a lot of the mental health work that I did as a social worker. And I just kind of transformed everything to have like this holistic revelation. And now I want to help people do the same.
I love that so much. And I appreciate the struggle and the journey. And it's amazing how many women I speak to who've started their companies because they went through something so challenging. And then, they had to grind and suffer to figure this out, and then realize how many people actually are dealing with the same thing. So they create companies to support them through that journey.
Spot on.
So good. Well, congratulations for that. And let's talk a little bit about the mindset that people have. What is this whole thing about relationship and food? Why do people have this relationship with food that's scary? It is emotional, or sometimes it's amazing. What does that mean? With Awin's marketing technology platform, you can easily discover the best partners who connect you with huge audiences of new customers. Understand how your partnerships are performing with intuitive reporting, and only pay for the results you need. Start today and grow your own way with Awin.
All of it, honestly, is based on how we were raised. We all develop a lot of different beliefs, a lot of learned behaviors around food that is created for us, not really our choice. When we're kids, when we're babies, we don't struggle to eat mindfully. We push the bottle away when we're full. We cry when we're hungry. We know how to ask for what we want. But along the way, we're starting to be told how to function, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. And we lose that ability to trust our bodies, to feel empowered, to make choices that actually work for us, and to move intentionally when it comes to noticing different changes in our body, like burnout. And so mindfulness and food relationships really come into play to help you better understand what works for you and what's a lot of the noise that just was there as a way to fix the problem, but only for short term.
So what you're saying is that people are subconsciously functioning in their eating habits today because how we choose to eat and what we choose to eat and when we choose to eat has been kind of wired in us for so long that now we don't even think about it. We just do the things we've always done and kind of default, right? So in this mindfulness relationship with food, how do you switch from like going to default automation to stopping and being like, okay, wait, I need to be mindful about this. And then what do you do about it once you realize you want to be mindful about it?
Oh my gosh, great questions. So honestly, to start, it's really about awareness, because a lot of us, when we are functioning in autopilot, when we are navigating, when our subconscious is kind of holding on to the steering wheel, it's hard for us to even notice what we're doing and how it's not serving us. So really being able to call ourselves out, but in a way that's actually compassionate. We're not judging ourselves. We're not belittling ourselves. We're not adding to the stress and exhaustion. We're treating ourselves almost like a kid again. And we're like, it's okay. I see you. I hear you. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out what's going on. And then using that compassion and those open-ended questions to really build curiosity so that you continue to check in. And if we're going with all the technical terms, our RAS, our reticular activating system, is something I focus on heavily in rewiring our brains so that we can shift from those limiting beliefs to something that's more supportive, that we can actually create to be our new routine or our new lifestyle.
Okay, so let's use an example, because I love very, very realistic examples. Every now and then when I'm on the road, I'm like, I need a coffee. So I might drive through like a McDonald's or a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks. And when I'm in Tim Hortons, shout out to Canada, but I don't know too, they have amazing donuts, and I want to eat a donut because they look amazing. So how do I stop myself and be like, you know what, child in me, Sarah, why do you need that donut? And what is it that's making me want that? Is it because it tastes good? Is it like my body's addicted to sugar? Is it because feel like I need comfort food? Like, how do you pause in that moment to be like, no, you don't need that donut, and you're hungry, and here are some better options? A great big thank you to our sponsors, PartnerStack. PartnerStack's ecosystem connects you to the world's largest B2B network for you to earn, connect, and grow.
Okay, so a few checking questions I feel like really work with this, especially because when you're in the drive-thru, you have a very short amount of time. So when you are pulling into the drive-thru, you often know that you're craving this a little bit. It's not just the picture, right? Like you have this as you're starting to think about it as you're heading to whichever coffee shop you're going to. Mm-hmm. When we start to notice that we have this craving that might be adding on to another craving. So for example, you went for coffee, but then the donut paired with it and it sounded really good. Mm-hmm. We have to ask ourselves, why do we want this thing right now? When you go for coffee, you're probably a little tired. And when we're tired, we want some of those carbs, those fast acting sugar carbs to really just boost our energy levels. Mm-hmm. So pairing that with a coffee, that sounds like it's going to boost our energy and wake us up so we keep going for the long drive. Right. Or when we see it, we think back to maybe an old memory where we did go on a road trip. We had those fun snacks. It was family. There was sugar. It was just something that made us feel really comfortable and excited. So now it's kind of like movies with popcorn. We pair a road trip with a donut. Or when we go to this place, we don't allow ourselves to have donuts ever. We always label them as bad, wrong. I have to have discipline. I can't eat unhealthy junk food. So then the moment that we see them and they're so easily accessible, we start to crave them more because we have this scarcity mindset going on. Mm-hmm. So if we can uncover the why behind it, which often isn't, well, I'm hungry, it's something else, and ask why again until we really find what's deeply rooted in there, then we can choose what we want to do next. And sometimes we might get the donut, but it's a lot less.
And it's probably easier to say no because you've associated it with a past experience or scarcity or this desire to feel good because in a moment when you were 9 years old, you did, but subconsciously you can't. So I appreciate what you're saying about like pause and stop for a minute and be like, why do I actually crave this right now? Or why do I think I need this right now? Mm-hmm. And then what do you do with it? Do you say, I don't need it and move on? Or do you subsidize it with something else? What's the action on it?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the person. So if you understand that, no, you don't want this right now, you're not hungry, you're just kind of falling into that past habit and it's comfortable, but it's not really going to satiate you now. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is positive self-talk or self-affirmations. A lot of people, they benefit from telling themselves, it's not that it's a no because it's bad or I don't deserve it or I can't have it. It's a no because I don't actually want this. It's not going to support me or serve me in the way I'm looking for, even though I think it might short term. So then I want to look at other options. Maybe you are actually hungry, so the donut does sound good and you did answer, but I am hungry. Maybe you look at something that's another option that could be more fulfilling, more satiating, and actually help you sustain the rest of the drive without having to stop again. So it really just depends on your answer.
Let's talk a little bit about the type of food that you recommend for high performance women in business. Because A, we're busy. B, we have limited time. C, oftentimes we are tired and sometimes very burnt out. And we may not have the ability to pause long enough to be mindful, or don't have logistic access to food that we need because of wherever we're situated in that time in our crazy busy schedules. How do you help people through these instances and moments, specifically women in high performance jobs or high performance women in business?
Yes. Oh, I like to kind of better understand the person before I give them the answer, because some of us, we are volume-based eaters. So we feel more satisfied when we have a lot of stuff, like maybe we have a huge salad, and even though that might not sustain someone, it sustains us. Another person, they might get satisfied by more of like the texture, the creamy, the indulgent. So we want to take a look at which one actually satisfies you and your cravings and desires and that mental, emotional side. Because even if we give ourselves everything that we would need to feel energized to keep going, if we're not mentally satisfied by what we ate, we're still going to be hungry and we're still going to feel fatigued. So obviously, the dependable carbs, the proteins, the fat, getting a variety in there is going to be super important. But figuring out what works for you based on volume-based eating or more of that satiating, creamy, indulgent-based eating, that will help us determine where we want to go. But for anyone that's super on the go and really lacking the ability to like make food and doesn't really want to meal prep, it sounds so silly, and I'm not going to say like protein bars are the answer, but granola bars that actually have like the fruits, the nut butters, the grains, things that are more whole foods that do get the carbs, the proteins, and the fats, and the fibers is going to be very beneficial. I used to have a box of granola bars just sitting in my car at all times, so that if I did notice I was getting a little hungry, I just reached my hand back, grabbed it, and I knew I was going to be sustained until I could have a meal.
That's a great plan. And I actually do the same. I have all kinds of stuff in my mom truck. I call it my mom truck because I have my work car and my husband has his work car, are professional vehicles. And then there's the truck with all the things. And healthy granola bars is definitely one of them. So bottles of water in the back so that you're not dehydrated on the go. What kind of things do you recommend?
Oh my gosh, the hydration is a huge one. A lot of people do not understand that the feeling of dehydration feels like hunger a lot of the times. So when we wake up and we haven't had any water all night, we instantly think, oh, I'm hungry. But really your body's just asking for water. So being able to also ask yourself that in those moments of how much have I had to drink today? Like, have I had any water? Usually the answer is no, because we're running so quickly. We're not going to make time to go to the water fountain, let alone grab food. So we really need to just make sure that we're actually giving our body what it's asking for.
So hydration is going to be key. Water, I imagine, is best. Is there something that's better to drink than water if you're trying to be a high performance person?
I know a lot of people like electrolytes, and if you aren't getting a lot of the foods that you need in throughout the day, that can be really beneficial to keep you going and to help hold on to that hydration. But I will always say water is the purest thing that we can do for our bodies. So why not just go with what's natural, right?
Makes sense. Yesterday, I ran a half marathon, Vancouver half marathon, and they were giving out electrolytes and water. So you could actually run up to a table and you could get somebody passing you electrolytes. And then if you ran like another 10 meters, people were handing out water as well. And people had a choice or they could get both. I'm going to just preface with, I ate the day before my half marathon, I ate a giant bowl of pasta. And then the next morning, which was the morning of the marathon, I ate a bagel with peanut butter and a banana. Okay, so if I ate that on a regular basis and wasn't running a half marathon, what would happen to me? Like, how do I choose these things that are supposed to fuel and propel you and be a strategy to longevity throughout the day compared to, say, like having a really nutritious salad or like a whole grain granola bar? Like, how do you pick and choose what to eat throughout the course of the day and at what times to have the best performance for the longevity of whatever it is that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I think a good point is taking a look at what you're doing or about to do, because as humans, we are constantly navigating, being flexible, trying new things. And even though we do have a routine, sometimes things come up where we are in training, we are doing a half marathon. And at those moments, that's when I think it's super important to let go of the ideals of what is healthy and not healthy, and really consider what your body needs in order to be at that performance level. Because you're right, if you had all of those carbs on just like an average day and you did that all the time, you would not be feeling the same way that you did before your run. But in order to sustain that kind of run, you needed that many, like those carbs in order to keep you going. So really being able to ask yourself, not what am I craving? Because obviously that is important, but also what is my body craving for fuel? Because we are going to crave snacks, sugar, and that's not bad, but is that actually going to help us continue for the long run?
Totally great, valid points. I appreciate it so much. Let's talk about burnout, because I associate burnout with like crashing. You have some junk food, you've got some sugar, you got a Red Bull, eventually you sugar crash, right? And that's not going to help. Then you got to do it again. Some women who are listening to this are already burnt out. Some people listening to this are at risk of burning out. What do you recommend for people when it comes to their nutrition and their eating habits to avoid burnout? And then what do you recommend for people listening to this who are already burnt out and need to adjust their relationship with food to help them come out of burnout?
Okay, so it's going to be kind of like, I'm going to get like a little feisty for a second for both parties. So basically, what I want everyone to take away from this is fixing burnout or supporting yourself from entering burnout is not more restriction. Pushing off food until you have more time is not going to help you in any part of this situation, because it's what got you there in the first place. Your mind and your body needs nutrients to keep going. But when you're burnt out, your energy is low, your nervous system is taxed, and eating sounds like an insane amount of work, because you have to plan what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it, how you're going to make it, and all of the other things that go into preparing food. And when we're in survival mode, we don't want to do all of that. Recognizing that it's not because we're lazy or because we can't do it, because we are very strong women. We are clearly running whole businesses. Like, we can do the things. It's just that we're tired because we haven't been taking care of ourselves. So when we're looking at food and when we want to focus on how we can prevent that burnout, a lot of this comes with prioritizing simple satisfactions and not running through the drive-through, not grabbing the first thing that you see in the conference room and just like kind of going for it. It's more about what meal or what food is going to feel really grounding for you, not just convenient. Because when we meet that satisfaction level, it's not just about our desires, but it's about fueling ourselves holistically. And a lot of that is surprisingly from visuals. We are scrolling on social media all day. We easily can be like, oh my gosh. And then we have like this whole wake up just like with 1 second scrolls. Food is kind of the same. And that's why they market so well. If it's appealing to you visually, you're going to go for it. So how can we satisfy ourselves and ground ourselves visually without it having to just be a convenient fast food sign?
Okay, can you give us some examples of how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we are looking at something that is a plate, for example, so let's say you are on the go, you're very busy, you are running into the kitchen and you have a one of those veggie plates that has all like the different pieces. It's colorful. It gives you a little bit of like a shape that's different from the normal, like just square bar kind of thing. So you're more intrigued by it. It looks a little bit more pleasurable. Maybe vegetables for you aren't the thing. Maybe you have some cheeses and some almonds and other things mixed into that. But having this variety, having a lot of colors, having aromas even, and having something that is a little bit different from the status quo is going to appeal to you. And then that's going to satisfy you visually with aroma, with scent. It's going to do with textures. If you're picking pieces up with your hands, it's really going to allow you to be in the moment and then really ground yourself, like that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method that we use, but we can just use it with food.
So let's talk a little bit about how people can rebuild strength. We know we're tired. We're burnt out as business owners, moms, entrepreneurs, leaders, spouses, daughters, whatever, right? We've been going for a long time. What specific action items and then specific foods tied back to those action items can we implement to rebuild our strength?
Slowing down. Start by slowing down for just a second, because you are outdoing yourself and you can only take so much before you're going to break down. So being able to just give your body that opportunity and embrace it as a skill rather than a problem or an annoyance is going to be really important. And we can do that with food. It's not just like about slowing down in our everyday by walking slower. We want to pause before our plate, give ourselves a moment before we eat to check in with ourselves, again, without judgment, just to see how we are feeling, not just about the food, but in life. Like, are we running on empty? If we are, is there any way to encourage our mind and body to be more in tune with one another? Is making that plate more visual helping you feel more grounded? Is something that is going to be more of an activity outside of food going to help you kind of decompress? And can you say no to things that aren't just food, but like activities that you cannot get into your calendar? And then when you do go to eat, if you do move forward because you are needing to nourish yourself, I like to think of a lot of things like avocados, nut butters, seeds, oats for those hardcore fiber, protein, carbs, and extra fats. They're very easy to interchange. They're easy to house in your pantry or in your fridge. And when we have a lot of variety and we have the ability to make different options available to ourselves without stressing ourselves out, we are going to be a little bit more inclined to eat. Because a lot of people, when they have meal plans and they've been eating the broccoli rice for 5 days a week, they don't want to go grab that again. They want something new. So having a couple items that you can interchange is going to be super beneficial.
Kiley, you talk a lot about having compassion for yourself when you're thinking about your relationship with food. And actually, you talk a lot about having compassion for yourself, period, which I really appreciate, because a lot of women in business or women in general just do not have compassion for themselves. We are our worst critics. We're constantly talking to ourselves and putting ourselves down, which is really unfortunate because we would never talk like that to our best friend or our children, hopefully, or anybody else. This is what we do to ourselves. So this morning you sent out a newsletter, and it talked about having compassion for yourself and talked about, greeting yourself wherever it is that you're at in that moment and being okay with that. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how to do that so that we can actually embrace who we are, where we are, and then what to do with that in our relationship with food?
Yeah. So I love that you're talking about my Mindset Monday email. So with compassion, a lot of us, like you said, we forget that we're people too. We deserve the same kind of love, respect, support, acceptance that we give so easily to other people. And when we are running on like just wired 100 all the time and we're giving, our cup is empty. As cliche as it sounds, if we don't fill our cup first, how are we going to continue to fill others? So a lot of that compassion that we need to implement back into our lives could be the things that we didn't get when we were younger, that we didn't get from the relationship that was super toxic that we ended. Wherever it might be that it's missing, it is our job to give that back to ourselves because we are worthy of it. Through and through, because we are alive, we are inherently worthy of this life, of everything that we have access to. And love and compassion are part of that. Mm-hmm. So being able to talk to yourself like you would your best friend is crucial. And something that I actually tell a lot of my clients to do because they do have a hard time with their self-esteem and they notice that they're self-sabotaging with food is that they have to practice positive affirmations. And not just like, I'm strong, I'm smart, and I'm powerful, but really looking at themselves in the mirror. I make them look at themselves so they can really feel it and embody it, but picking something that they like about themselves, whether it's visually, it's mentally, it's an action, a strength, a skill, it doesn't matter. You need to compliment yourself more and actually pour your energy into the positives. Because if you continue to just look at the negatives or shame yourself or guilt yourself, that's all you're going to feed mentally. So that's all you're going to keep hearing on repeat. But when we can flip that script and we can start saying things with love and kindness, then that's going to start being an automation and we're going to start coming with compassion every single time.
I think a lot of people who are listening to this need to embrace and absorb this message of compassion and love for self. And it's hard. It's so hard to do that, especially when you are running 1,000,000 miles a minute and have so many things to take care of. We're coming into a season where people are going to either double down or maybe they're going to rest. Summertime is around the corner. What are some things that you recommend about this upcoming summer season for people so that they can take a breath, they can pause for a minute and really start to look in the mirror and take care of themselves?
Actually, a reflective question comes into mind that I used last year while I was trying to navigate becoming an entrepreneur. And it was the question, what would it look like if you gave yourself permission to just be well, to just be okay, instead of trying to earn your way to everything, instead of trying to live up to these expectations, instead of trying to fulfill these unrealistic highs that are only an outcome for you, and then you forget to enjoy the journey. Because a lot of people, we don't look at our life as a process anymore. We're just trying to reach every single goal that we set for ourselves. So if we can just give ourselves permission to just exist for a moment, to enjoy that process, to celebrate those small actions that are helping us reach those goals, that will really benefit whether you're wanting to rest or you're wanting to push a little bit more. Because either way, you're going to be taking care of yourself in the way that your body and your mind is asking for.
And I think the message out of all of this is not to feel bad about any decisions that you're making about how you eat or what you eat, but just being mindful and realizing I'm actually okay the way I am. I can love me. I'm perfect just the way I am. But if I have a goal of going from A to B and it's going to require some fuel and it's going to require some clarity of thought and it's going to require energy, and I need to make some changes and I need to make some decisions that are going to support that goal through what I ingest and what I put into my body, then that's really the purpose of this exercise, is really to say, whatever I've done to date and however I'm wired to date is okay. It's fine. There's a lot of reasons why we do what we do, but I can now be mindful and pause long enough to say, I have choices that I can make now going forward. It's a chance to do that. So what are some 3 things that you would recommend people do if they say, you know what, okay, let's say today is my starting point. Right now is my starting point. What 3 things should I do next?
Well, I'm going to have to comment on my free beginner's guide to mindful eating. Everyone definitely needs to go grab that because it is a very straightforward, easy way to implement some of the techniques that I'm talking about and learn some new ones. Because if you want 3 things to do next, there's definitely more than 3 in there. Another one is going to be sitting with yourself for a second, whether it's in the car, at home, in bed, on the toilet, I don't care, wherever you feel like you have a second, and just genuinely asking yourself, do I like myself? Like, have I offered myself any kind of appreciation, love, care? Because the answer to that is going to determine whether or not you're leading with compassion or you're forcing yourself to move forward out of guilt, shame, or something that's really toxic. Mm-hmm. And then another one, this is going to be pretty basic, but just looking at your food the next time that you eat, just looking at it and just taking it in for a moment before you ultimately consume it as fast as you can to move on to the next thing. Allow it to not be a chore and just be present for just a moment and see what you're about to do and then engage in that activity. You don't have to do anything else. Just notice.
Mm. And in noticing, little things start to percolate. And, you have paused for a moment long enough to start to ask the questions. Is this going to help fuel me for the day? Is this going to propel me towards the goals that I have in my life this week, this month, this year? I love these recommendations and I appreciate it. I want to go back to your second one, which was sitting on the bed or taking a minute and saying, do I actually even like myself right now? Am I the best version of me? And so the reason I want to bring that up is because if someone goes through that exercise and they're like, actually, I don't like this version of myself. I feel so unlike me. I've become a disgruntled, angry complainer and a pessimist when I used to be an optimist. And they go down this self-loathing path. That is not the purpose of the exercise. But I don't want people to get stuck there. So what happens if they do get stuck there or start going down that path? How do they veer themselves into the correct mindset or a better mindset to help them achieve that high performance self that they're looking for?
This is one of my favorite quotes. I say it all the time. Show me the Carfax. Anytime you are saying something negative to yourself, anytime you're running through this cycle of bad, worse, all these mistakes, whatever it might be with that self-loathing, a lot of that doesn't actually have proof. There are a lot of these false narratives that you've been telling yourself when in actuality, it's the opposite. But you just see yourself in this light, or you just think about this, or maybe you did notice that you're disgruntled or you're being super negative, but like that hasn't always been the thing. So that's not you. It's just a behavior you're participating in. So you ask yourself, show me the Carfax. Where can I say that this is true? This is 100% factual, that I actually do this and that I'm not capable of doing something else, and that this has just always been who I am. You're not going to be able to say like you're not capable of change, or that you have to be like this, or that you are actually terrible and ugly and lazy and rude. You can't say that you do that or are that 100% of the time.
Right.
So being able to recognize there is not 100% proof of this thought, that means that I have the ability to change it into something else, because your brain likes proof. It wants things to be real and authentic. So if that's not real, you get to consider what is real, what is true. And then your brain is going to start filtering that stuff in, and then you're going to go down that rabbit hole. So kind of letting yourself go crazy and obsess, but being able to change which direction you're going.
I love that you have this interesting mix and background of being a social worker and the psychology piece of that, mixed with your understanding of mindfulness and relationship with nourishment and food and how people can become this high performance person, combining these two things. What are some of the things that you help your clients do?
I wish I could say a lot more than what I can help them do, because as a social worker, as someone in the service industry, as someone who is a certified health coach, you want all of these things for them, but just because you want it doesn't mean that they make that change.
Right.
So the reason I say that is because you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink from it. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs to understand that you can help someone do a lot of things, but if they don't take that help and put it into action, not a lot of things are going to change. So I teach people a lot about mindset. I give them the information. I show them how something is happening in their life or in their mind or in their behaviors and habits from an outside perspective. And then I give them ideas, action steps, resources to take a different path. So rather than helping them, I feel like I help them, but more than anything, I'm teaching them something at the end of the day so that they can help themselves, if that makes sense.
It does. You're talking about empowerment. You're helping women become empowered to change the way that they think and behave and live around food and nourishment so that they can go live their best lives. And to do that, you need the information, you need the learnings, you need the accountability, you need the coach. And, even me, I've built and sold 2 very successful companies, and I still hire coaches for the things that I need because we need them. We need that support, and we need the guidance, and we need the accountability partner, and we need the cheerleader. And so it's important and lovely that you're providing that to people in times of need and in times of not of need, of just optimization of themselves. So I think it's awesome what you're doing, Kiley. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for sharing this with us. We're going to end with 2 quick things. One, how people can contact you, and then 1 tip. There's one small thing people can go do as soon as they finish listening to this podcast. What's one recommendation that you have for them, and how do people contact you?
Okay, so the recommendation, I'm not going to lie, I'm going back to my mindful eating guide because it's free, it's so beneficial, and it can help you in so many different aspects of your mindful eating activities. And it's just a quick button to download it. So definitely go grab that, and you can grab that from my LinkedIn page, which is Kiley Houck, and it is going to be right there at the very top. So you can also find me there, contact me there. My email's also there.
Perfect. Thank you. And for those who are listening and can't see, it will be in show notes, but Houck is spelled Houck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiley. So nice to see you. Thank you for being on the show. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor, and I hope to hear from you all soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to the 4 Female Founders podcast series. If you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe, like, or comment below so we can continue to support women in business by helping them thrive, not just survive. We'll see you on the next show.